All right, guys, so let's review for our test tomorrow. There's 10 questions on the test. So the first section it says find the value of each trigonometric ratio. Ratio is just the fancy word for saying fraction. So in trigonometric, for us so far, this is our SOHCAHTOA. So use SOHCAHTOA and write the fraction. That's what it says. So given the three sides, I know the big side is the hypotenuse. Then the opposite and adjacent depends on where we're looking at from. So looking at a question, we're going to be looking at it from corner C. So from corner C, 15 will be the opposite, 8 will be the adjacent. If we were looking at from corner A, opposite and adjacent will change. Like I said, opposite and adjacent depends on where we're looking at from. Then I'm looking at cosine. And I know from SOHCAHTOA, cosine starts with a C, so I'm dealing with CA. So what that stands for is cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so 8 over 17. Simplify the fraction if possible. Right? Some fractions you can simplify. This one you cannot. So it's just 8 over 17. Which one? So looking at the first 10, any questions on the first 10? No? How do I find the O? Is the farthest away from the angle we're looking at from. So we're looking at C. We're looking at it from C. So the farthest away, that's the opposite. And then the next two is the adjacent. On the test tomorrow, like I said, on the review we got 10 of these. On the test we have 4. 4 of these. Just 8 over 17, yeah. And like I said, make sure you do simplify. Like let's say I had 8 over 16. You guys write 8 over 16, it will be wrong. Because my key will say 1/2, 1 over 2. I'm not looking whether that was it. I'm just looking for the simplified version. And like I say, if it's not simple, I'll just mark it wrong. So, once again, any questions for the first 10? No? Okay, cool. Now let's take a look at number 11. Says find the missing side, round to the nearest tenth. What that means is 1 decimal place. So make sure your answer has 1 decimal place. So for this one, I gave you guys a chart. And now for the test, I will provide a chart, like a yellowish, orange looking. You guys saw it last week. So I will provide you guys with the chart. So from here, we know we have the hypotenuse, right? The biggest side. From 41 degrees, that's the corner I'm looking from. From 41 degrees, we have the opposite. I'm not going to mark anything for the adjacent because there's nothing for the adjacent. So O and H, when I look at SOHCAHTOA, I'm dealing with so. Because the only one that has O and H. What that stands for is sine of 41. And that's what the S stands for. Sine of 41, opposite over hypotenuse. So 17 over x. If the x was on top, so instead of 17, it was x over 17. If the x was on top, multiply both sides by 17 and you're good to go. You multiply. If the x is on top. But since the x is at the bottom, the x and the sine of 41, the whole thing, I'm going to switch it. I'm going to swap them. So I'm going to have x equals 17 over sine of 41. Sine of 41 is a decimal. And I gave you guys a chart. We look for 41 degrees, we look for sine, and it says 0.6561. So I have 17 over 0.6561. Once again, that decimal came from the chart that I gave you guys. Right, you guys have the chart. Then divide it. 17 divided by 0.6561, rounded to 1 decimal place, you should finish with 25.9. Make sure you do have 1 decimal place. Right? It says round to the nearest tenth. So no 26, 25.9. Because it's 1 decimal place. And yeah, if you guys were to call 26, it's not 25.9. So now I'm looking for 25.9. One decimal place. Because I don't know if you actually rounded to the nearest whole number or you messed up on your numbers and came out to 26. Like I don't know how you got the 26. So, all right. There's three of these on the test. So on the review it's 11 through 20, but on the test there's three of them. Yes.
So x on top, you just times it by 19.
You just multiply by 17 and yeah, you're good to go.
Just on both sides or on?
Both sides. So like for example, I had sine of 41 is x over 17, right? The x was on top. Multiply both sides by 17, because then that fraction cancels out. So then I just go 17 times sine of 41, which I know it's a decimal, multiply it, round it to nearest 10, and you're done. So if the x is on top, you multiply, the x is at the bottom, you divide. So any questions from 11 to 20? No? Good. Let's take a look at number 21. For this one, you do need a calculator. If you guys have been using your phones for calculators, you guys know for worksheets it's okay. I'm fine with the phone, but on quizzes and tests, no phones. So make sure you get a real calculator by tomorrow. And as a matter of fact, since it varies how to use how the calculators go, I can show you how to use it. So get a calculator by tomorrow, and make sure you do practice how to use it before you use it. For the calculator, make sure you guys are on degrees. Make sure it is on degrees to begin with. All right, so this one, we don't have the hypotenuse. Right? The hypotenuse is not there. So from the angle, I'm going to say 20 is the opposite, 26 is the adjacent. So I have O and A, so I know I'm dealing with TOA, which is tangent. So I'm going to say tangent of x, because it's always of the angle. Tangent of x, it's opposite over adjacent, so 20 over 26. Don't worry about simplifying this fraction, because you're going to type it in the calculator anyways. So don't worry about simplifying it. On this one, I want to switch the x with the fraction. I want to swap them. So I can do that as long as I don't call this tangent. I call this tan inverse. So this, it looks like a negative 1 of 20 over 26, and that is equal to x. And then just type that in your calculator. Some of them, you have to get the decimal first and then tan inverse. Some of them you have to do tan inverse and then the decimal. Like I said, I can look at your calculator and I can show you how to do it. So make sure you do practice on it. And like I said, that one you just type it in. But for this one, just find the angle, the measure the indicated angle to the nearest degree. So no decimal places on this one. Go to the nearest whole number. In this case, we get 38. So 38 degrees. So remember, when you're looking for the side, nearest tenth. So one decimal place on the side. When you're looking at an angle, nearest whole number. Don't get them, if you guys forget, they're on the instructions anyways. And then there's 3 of these on the test. There's a total of 10 questions on the test. Right, from the first section, when you guys have to do the ratio, there's 4. And then there's 3 of the other 2 sections. 3 of each. So you guys will have a little more than 4 minutes a question. I don't think there's a question that takes you more than a minute, but you guys have more than 4 per question. Plenty of time. Now, any questions? No questions? Let me take roll for this.